Hi, John Cottrell here with a quick yoga tutorial. Now in this tutorial, I want to work with you on Warrior Two pose. And the reason why I want to work with Warrior Two pose, well, one, it's one of my favorite postures, but sometimes we can move into the posture and not really get the full benefit of the pose. And there's some dichotomous things that are happening in that posture as we move into it that I want to break down for you. Now, when we move into Warrior Two, we're actually coming from Warrior One. So for example, I've got my right foot forward, left leg back, nice lunge here, nice wide stance here. So this is Warrior One where I'm facing forward on my mat. So as an instructor, I would say inhale, just reach and prepare to move. As I exhale, just turning torso, in this case towards the left side of the room and bringing arms down to parallel, right there. And so I just want to talk about kind of the structure of this posture and how we can fully get into the pose and get the best out of the posture. So as you can see, it is a lunging position, and I've got my front leg forward and bent. Here, the right knee is bent and that back leg is straight and strong here. Torso straight up and down. Just want to be aware if you're kind of leaning or tipped over or even feeling like you're tipped forward or tipping back. And I'm going to be turning sideways like this so you can see a different perspective of the pose. And of course, your arms are straight out and parallel to the ground. Okay. So getting into the posture, I'm going to face you while I do this from a Warrior One. And let's do this with my left foot forward like this. So if this is fully aligned, meaning my left knee is pointing directly forward and is stacked nicely over heel or ankle, this is pretty good alignment. And that back leg is straight. You probably can't see it very well. Torso is very tall, a little space in the waistline, and I'm facing you, just like this. Now this is what sometimes could happen as you move into Warrior Two. As the body turns to this direction, this leg will sometimes drop to this direction as well. See how I dropped this knee to the inside and it's gone from alignment to out of alignment. Now we want to try to avoid that. Part of the transition from Warrior One to Warrior Two is actually the increased hip opener in the inner leg right here. So we want to make sure that actually this front leg stays stable. Rather than turning to the side and that knee dropping to the inside, there's an element of keeping this leg stable. So you may want to imagine that there's a wall or even your hand on the outside of your thigh right here. And even though your body is turning this direction in this case, you want to make sure that the leg is actually moving in the opposite direction rather than in the same direction as your torso. Okay? So I'm going to place my hand here like this and actually put a little pressure. I'm actually pushing my leg into my hand. So as I inhale and reach high, exhale, as I'm turning open, I'm actually pushing my leg into my hand. And I can actually feel the pull and gentle stretch in the inner thigh as I make the transition now into Warrior Two, keeping this leg stable. Alrighty? So, as you are moving from your Warrior One, assuming that you have nice alignment in the first place here, when we open, in this case I'm turning towards the left side of the room, my right outer thigh is actually moving towards the right side of the room to maintain that alignment and that nice hip opener. So that's one of the main things that I wanted to talk about. And here's another thing too. Now, sometimes it really doesn't matter too much as far as how wide your feet are on your mat. Sometimes it's just a matter of balance and how flexible you might be. So it's okay to have, not too much distance between the feet. But you do want to be mindful of where your knee, your front knee, is aligned in relation to your foot. So as I mentioned, like in Warrior One and even in Warrior Two, you may want to have your shin and calf, this whole bottom portion of the leg, perpendicular to the floor or straight up and down. And I like to have my knee stacked and well aligned over the heel in front or the ankle bone. What we want to try to avoid is actually something like this, where you're maybe lunging too far forward. See how this changes? And the knee, if I drew a straight line down, is actually right over the mid portion of my foot and towards the big toe. That's going to keep us out of alignment and shift too much energy forward and even put too much pressure in this front knee, even creating some damage or harm. And we certainly don't want to do that. So you may want to, if you have the flexibility and can take the feet a little wider, take them a little wider, or even if they're not too far apart, just this lunge is not going to be too deep. What you want to feel is like this, your torso, is the center of the pose, okay? That it stays center, right down the center of the body. And so it's going to end up right between the feet, okay? Not too far forward. If I drew a straight line down, see now my whole torso is too far forward. I want to stay centered. I call it the pocket. So staying right there in the pocket. So with a wide stance perhaps from our Warrior One and opening to Warrior Two, that thigh is moving towards the right side of the room, keeping that nice alignment there. Right knee is staying stacked and nicely aligned over heel or ankle. And here is the center of the pose. There's an even distribution of weight from front to back right here. That's our posture. And of course, we want the torso to be as tall as possible, arms extended parallel to the floor. Let me show you just one more thing. And I'm going to turn sideways again. So I'm going to have my left foot forward. So one thing we want to be aware of, and this too also depends on how flexible you are perhaps in your pelvis. Now I like to think of the pelvis as a bowl, and actually in Latin pelvis means bowl, okay? So you want to think of a bowl, and I think of the bowl like a bowl of soup. And so that bowl of soup is right here. We want to be mindful of not tipping that bowl of soup so the soup spills. So you want to be careful if your pelvis is shaped like this or your stance is like this. In this case, your soup is spilling forward right there. And so what we want to do is, if you're able, a little bit of a lift in the torso, making a little space in the pelvic region, tuck tailbone under like so, really just tipping that bowl so the rim is level to the ground. That way your soup does not spill right there. And it's less likely that it'll tip backward, like this. It's more likely that it'll tip forward. Now with continued flexibility and work in the opening up through the hips, core work, etc., you will find that you'll gain a little bit more flexibility, so you will be able to manipulate that pelvic bowl and get that nice even alignment. So you're here nice and tall. See how that is nicely aligned right there? And right here, just like that. So that is a breakdown of Warrior Two. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.